Well, good morning and welcome to Unfiltered Vision News, bringing you the news unfiltered Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 a.m. Eastern. My name is Ashaki Noni Nichols, Dr. Ashaki Noni Nichols, and I will be your host. And I've been out of town. Yeah, I know I was out of town again. It was the last vacation of the year for my husband and I. We got to spend some good time with family, so that was fun and just experiencing new places and getting outside. So I will say welcome back to myself, and I missed you guys. And there was a lot of news that happened. Of course, I was like, "Really? It's gonna drop the day I leave? Really?" The day I leave, you know. So not much that I wanted to be super a part of, but the one thing that I did want to start out with, I wanted to start out with this whole thing with the young Republicans because I was just like, "Wow, that's very interesting." And the one thing I did not see happen to them was, what happened to Kyrie Irving. If people remember what happened back in 2022, where he put a post, he says, what do you think of this?" Basically. And it was a link to a book called Hebrews to Negroes. And this is a book. I forget the gentleman's name. I want to say his name is Richard. I have to get his name and link the book to the post. But by any means, this gentleman wrote Bruce to Negroes. Apparently, so what do you think? And he was drugged by APAC, by everybody. You're anti-Semite, all these things. All he did was list a post. He didn't say anything horrible about Jewish people. He didn't say that people deserve, what happened to the Holocaust. None of that. Nothing compared to what the young Republicans did. But I've yet to see any Jewish organizations drag them like they did Kyrie Irving. And if they have, please let me know because I haven't seen it. And I find that very fascinating that Kyrie Irving did what he did, but these young Republicans doing what they're doing. I haven't even seen anything from the young Jewish Republicans. Anybody? Bueller? Tell me, and I'll show it on the program. But I haven't seen anything. I'm just saying. And good morning, Dr. C. She says, "Good morning, founder. Good morning to you too. Thank you so much for joining us here this morning on Unfiltered Vision News." So I want to play this little clip from House Speaker Mike Johnson and what he had to say.
Of the racist Hitler-loving group chat among young Republicans, including Vermont State Senator, and then an American flag with a swastika was found in a Republican congressman's office this week. Are you worried about that extremist pro-Hitler sentiment among the party's young Republicans?
No, look, obviously we roundly condemn any of that nonsense. And the young Republican or the organization, whoever that, I don't know who any of these people are. I never heard of them. Somebody posted a photo of me standing next to these guys. We're in tuxedos. Obviously, I think it was at the inauguration, and people were just coming up and asking for selfies with 1,000 of them. I don't know. I've never heard of that person in my life. But whoever these young people are, and whatever they're saying, if it's true, we obviously condemn that. And the organizations involved are dealing with that. That's my understanding. With regard to the swastika thing, this happened last night. A Republican congressman, allegedly one of his staffers had something in the background or something in a Zoom. That's what I heard this morning. He says that's not his investigation ongoing, and the congressman did exactly what he should have done, and that is report it. It's under investigation, and I can't comment on it any further until that's done. But I will say, obviously, that is not the principles of the Republican Party. We stand for the founding principles of America. You want me to articulate them for you right now? Individual freedom, limited government, the rule of law, peace through strength, fiscal responsibility, free markets, human dignity, the things that lead to human flourishing. We have stood against that. We fought the Nazis. We defended that evil ideology. We roundly condemn it, and anybody in any party who espouses it, we're opposing that.
Now, oh yeah, he had to tighten that up, right? Because what I find fascinating and what they'll never talk about is Operation Paperclip after World War II and how there were scientists from Nazi Germany that were actually brought over here by our government, and it was bipartisan that they decided to do that. Yeah. Both parties decided to bring over Nazis from Germany and insert them within our um, scientific community, I should say. So a lot of these diseases that we have going around, you know, our pandemics, different things that happened, um, the way people are unfortunately losing their lives. Part of that was through Operation Paperclip. Fascinating. But no, you don't support anything to do with the Holocaust. You couldn't, Mr. Johnson, Speaker Johnson. You just left Israel earlier this year, kissing the rock, the wall in Jerusalem. Yeah, there's photos of that. You know exactly who the young Republicans are if you don't stop. If you do not stop, these are the same people that helped Donald Trump get into the office that he's in now. So to sit there and say, I don't know who they are, yes, you do. You may not know them individually on a personal level, but you know of the group of young Republicans. You do know who they are. Stop that. It's going to be interesting, like I said, to find out next steps in this whole nonsense. And good morning, Outlaw Media 314. Thank you so much for joining us here, Conscious Outlaw. I like the picture. Very cool. Very cool. Thank you so much for joining this morning. So, you know, like I said, this whole thing with the young Republicans, I find it very disingenuous for the Republican Party to be like, no, we're not racist. We're not. Stop it. There are some people in your party that are racist. I mean, mm, how should I say it? Can you account for each and every person and their ideologies in your party? No, you can't. But obviously, there are some people in your party with these views because the young Republicans, they're Republicans. So you can't say that they're not in your party because they are. You Yeah, they did something dumb. And you're just disavowing their actions, but they're still Republicans and they're the young ones. Yeah, these are the ones that are coming up. These are the ones like after you pass away are going to be in your position. The question is, who's raising them? Because you don't just come around having conversations like that unless they were openly had with you as a child and you feel comfortable talking like that with other people. Just saying. Look, as my pastor likes to say, there's more caught than taught. Okay. Which means when you're around people acting a certain way, you're going to catch behaviors as opposed to even being taught those behaviors. Yeah, that's why there's that saying, there's more caught than taught. So I went into Chat GPT because I just had some questions. I said, uh, how many, if the young, I meant to say sorry, of the young Republicans in that racist chat group were supported by APAC? Because I was trying to find out. And the reason why is because obviously it is an American Israel political action committee. And they basically raise money for different candidates right here in America. And they are not a foreign entity, right, involved in our politics. If so, then they would have to file what's called a FARA, FARA request, right, foreign aid request to, be able to participate as a political action committee. But they're like, no, we're in America, so we don't have to do that. Okay, that's fine. But how many of them really supported them? And, Chat GPT, they couldn't find any credible evidence that any individuals in the racist chat of young Republican National Federation, YR, were directly supported by APAC, right? So he says, do you want me to check campaign finance records? I said, okay. So they did check the finance records. And here's some of the individuals' names, right? And they didn't, ChatGPT still didn't find any evidence. So I was like, okay, well, I guess maybe that's good right? That AIPAC wasn't supporting these young Republicans, right? Okay. So there's no documented AIPAC contribution, right? And I said, "Do you want me to go further?" And then I had a question. I said, "I find it interesting that there haven't been any calls of anti-Semitism, even though there were many anti-Semitic slurs in the chat." Again, if anybody has a video or, any type of shame on you, don't do that, young Republicans from the Israel community, let me know. 'Cause, ChatGPT says that that's an astute observation, and you're not the only one noticing it, okay? So in, reporting on the group chat, most coverage emphasized the anti-Black, anti-Latino, and homophobic content, but largely downplayed or omitted the anti-Semitic language that was also reportedly present. There are a few possible reasons for this discrepancy. So you're right. Okay. I'm like, yeah, this is a big deal. But why aren't they crashing out on the anti-Semitism? I saw a commercial the other day talking about stop Jewish hate. I was like, what? Huh? Excuse me? Is it that noticeable? Like I don't notice it. I don't see people running around burning Israeli flags. Anyone, Bueller? But they've got commercials, just like, "We've gotta stop Jewish hate." Huh? I don't know. You bought some airtime for that? I find it weird. Find it weird. So, media framing and focus. So, most journalists and outlets frame the leak as an example of racism inside the GOP youth movement, centering race and anti-Black rhetoric, right? Because anti-Semitism can sometimes be grouped under racism. In general coverage, the nuance is lost unless a Jewish organization or figure publicly calls it out. And that's what I have not seen. I've not seen any of these people get run down by the ADL, right? So it says Jewish advocacy groups like the ADL or AJC often issue statements when anti-Semitic incidents are publicized, but in this case, no prominent Jewish organization seems to have issued a formal condemnation yet. That silence may reflect a slower vetting process, reluctance to wade into intra Republican fighting, right? Or limited visibility of the anti Semitic parts of the chat in mainstream report. They, limited visibility, it was out there. They're talking. Okay. I was saying, but this is what ChatGPT is trying to justify. Like, this might be some of the reasons why they're not getting drugged. And like I said, I don't understand why they're not getting drugged because if this was anybody else, let's just say these were Latinos. Let's just say this was young Latinos that did this within the Republican Party. We're still folk. They'd have got drugged. If it was young black Republicans within the Republican Party, they would have gotten drugged. Is it the Republican Party? Or is it the ethnicity of these individuals that did it? And, those that are in the Jewish community can't bring themselves we can't take them out because we're trying to be close to this. I'm gonna go there. I'm gonna go there because that's the only thing that makes sense to me. It's like I can't try to have proximity with you and then demonize you at the same time, even though you've made blatantly racist comments. I mean, blatant, crazy comments, right? So, selective accountability within political networks. Many of the individuals in the chat are tied to GOP state and local party organizations, institutions that may be quicker to denounce overt racism or homophobia, which get immediate press backlash, but are less responsive when the anti Semitism is entangled within broader ideological loyalty. Yeah. Yeah. Basically, we're not going to chop off our own hand within the party, even though there should be something. Like, there's nothing. There's no backlash. Like, the way, I mean, the ADL, they just run black people down like it's just sport. It's like, yep, it's 2 o'clock time to run down some black folks. Let's just destroy their lives. Let's go. Without a thought. But this, I know it's been almost 2 weeks going, right? Because I've been off air about a week. But when I heard about it, I was like, okay, where's the outpouring? Oh my goodness, the sky is falling. How dare you say something bad about a Jewish person? Comment. Nowhere. So since AIPAC maintains strong relationships with many Republican donors and politicians, publicly condemning the group might risk alienating, might risk, alienating allies. Historically, AIPAC's responses to anti Semitism within GOP circles have been cautious, especially when the offenders are rising political operatives rather than elected officials. Yeah, see, they need these young people later on. So they're like, we can't burn them now. We need them. It's disgusting to me what's going on, because and that's the thing. These young Republicans, they know they can be blatantly racist, especially with the Jewish community. They can say all that stuff because they're like, "Psh, what are you going to do? You're not going to do anything to us." Just because you have them close a charter, they have thousands of charters around the United States. Really? Seriously, they're not going to stop being Republicans because they got caught. And you're not going to say anything to them because you're going to need them later on. This is gross. So anti Semitism has become politically polarized. Each side tends to highlight it when it appears in their opponent's ranks, not their own. That can lead to a situation like this, where a conservative group's anti Semitic rhetoric is met with quiet avoidance rather than vocal outrage. Yeah, they're definitely at quiet avoidance right now. They are not trying to have this conversation, not a real one anyway. And I said, yes. Also, do you think they will get the same reaction as Kyrie Irving? Because I brought it up. And I was like, okay, so here's a breakdown of what I found so far. And then some thoughts on whether the young Republicans chat scandal will get the same scale of reaction as the Kyrie Irving anti-Semitism incident. So, what public statements and responses have that leak gotten? So the leaked chat message included gas chamber references, praise for Hitler, white supremacist imaginary, and anti-Semitic content. The National Board of Young Republicans Federation said it was appalled by the vile and inexcusable language revealed. But they had a whole chat back and forth. Like, nobody in the chat disavowed it. You're after the fact disavowing it. So the New York State Republican Committee's executive board voted unanimously to suspend the authorization of the New York chapter of Young Republicans. State level, the Vermont governor called the chat vile, racist, bigoted, and anti-Semitic. Okay. Now, in the Kyrie Irving case, he posted a link to the film documentary that contained anti-Semitic material, which it didn't. And that's my opinion. It didn't. The Anti-Defamation League got involved, and Irving, his team agreed to donate $500,000 each. His team agreed to donate $500,000 each toward anti-hate education. His team, the Brooklyn Nets, suspended him for at least 5 games without pay for failing to unequivocally say he has no anti-Semitic beliefs in an early media session. you're just like, "Hey, we're gonna suspend the authorization of your chapter, Young Republicans." That's it? Just one? Hmm. Will the YR scandal get the same kind of reaction as the Irving case? Here are some similarities. Both involve anti Semitic comment, both triggered immediate condemnation. Both cases raise questions of accountability, right? But the difference is which may lead to a different magnitude or nature response. Public visibility and platform. Kyrie Irving is a high profile professional athlete with huge national media platform and corporate sponsorships. The Young Republicans participants are low profile political operatives or activists. Big brands, sponsors, broadcast deals amplify the Irving case more enormously. Yeah, because they could. Because see, he's not a political figure. He can't pull the levers of justice on anything for anyone. So was this a buck breaking moment, as some refer to it as? Were you just trying to show us like, okay, black people, if you say anything anti-Semitic and you have money, we will destroy your lives. That's what it said to me. But as long as you are a young Republican within the Republican Party, you can say anything you want to, and we'll give you a slap on the wrist. That's what it's saying to me. I don't know about you guys, but this one kind of upset me a little bit because it's the way they did it. Because, especially JD Vance, I'm, oh, they're just kids. Really? No, they're not kids. They're young men. They're all over 21. All of them. So they know better, but they don't care because they don't have to know better because they know they're the future of the party. Nick Fuentes is the future of your party, and he's an overt racist, and he doesn't care. And that's his business, right? Because like I said, you're not going to be able to control who's in your party, right? And their value system and their views. But what's going to be interesting is who you raise up in the party because see, y'all want to follow behind Nick Fuentes in the Republican Party as a young Republican. He's unapologetic about it. Have your way, sir. That's your business. But the reflection on your party is that. It's that part. It's the reflection part. So obviously you're okay with this. You know. Yeah. Downplaying it is one thing, denouncing it is another, but y'all don't care. These people, you're not saying, hey, you can no longer be a part of our party. Start your own, figure it out, but we're not doing that type of conservatism over here. You're not doing that because you know that will alienate hundreds of thousands of young people that are in your party that think that way. It's crazy. Those facts. Those are facts. So, ChatGPT says, my prediction, given the above, I believe the YR scandal will receive significant scrutiny and consequences, resignation, suspensions, public condemnation, but it's unlikely to match the scale and breadth of the Kyrie Irving case in terms of corporate brand fallout, mass media coverage outside of political news, structured remediation, or widespread sponsorship brand withdrawal. If the Wire case triggers national donor brand pullbacks, large scale federal investigations, or endorsements lost, then it could approach that level, right? But for now, the mechanisms aren't as built for that. And Uncle Coolwater says maybe it's because people like Kyrie and others are actually being paid by the Jewish organizations that they work for. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I want to say I don't know if he still might be, but like the head of the NBA is Jewish. Yeah, that guy. Of course. But what I'm saying is they have a young Jewish Republican organization within the Republican Party. You ain't heard nothing from them. Nothing. And I said, if you had, call me. And Cajun lady says, glad to see you back, Dr. Ashaki. Oh, glad to see you too. Oh, the bears are so cute. I like the picture. And thank you for your red, white, and blue hearts. Yeah. I'm just saying It's really fascinating to me just how they've gone about dealing with it. So, the Jewish Democratic Council issued a press release on October 14th condemning the chats, saying they can confirm what we have known, what we've long known. The Republican Party has an anti-Semitism problem. The release described messages including "I love Hitler" and jokes about sending people to the gas chamber. So the Jewish council has done this. But what I'm saying, where's the smoke from the Republican Party? Because they're just like, oh no, this is they don't represent us. But you're not coming down on them. Like, no, we're going to deal with this. There ain't none of that. The Republican Jewish Coalition, right? RJC publicly responded in coverage by the Jewish Telegraphic Agency, condemned the text and said those individuals should step aside. They're not, but okay. The Anti-Defamation League, via its CEO, Jonathan Greenblatt, praised Republican leaders who had spoken out strongly, calling the language in the chats offensive and very concerning. That's it. That's it. No one's being sued. No one's losing their livelihood. You don't have these people full mass. They work here, here, here. We need to make them take classes. They need to pay fines. You're not doing any of it. It's weird. So while these organizations did respond, the scope appears somewhat limited in terms of detailed formal investigations or sustained campaigns focusing solely on the anti-Semitic component of the chats. Yeah. This is the sense of ChatGPT. It says the fact that the JDCA, RJC, and ADL have spoken up shows that the anti-Semitic part has been noticed by the organized Jewish community. However, the volume, intensity, and specificity of their responses appear less than what we have seen in other high-profile anti-Semitic controversies. Right? E.g., when a prominent public figure had an anti-Semitic incident. So while the anti-Semitic element is being addressed, it may not be getting equal focus compared to the racism, homophobia, or compared with other incidents where Jewish community groups have mounted sustained public pressure. Oh, and thank you so much, Uncle Coolwater, for reposting the stream. So, I ask, with the recent statements, how could this affect the Republicans' relationship with Israel? Right? Because they've been on this whole Israel tour, and I showed you the company, it's called Show Faith by Works, that's actually an Israeli governed body because they had to submit a FARA, which is a foreign um, registry, so they could basically campaign here in the United States. Right. So I'm like, what are they doing? So in the short term, damage control, not rupture, right? Um, Institutional Republicans still maintain strong pro-Israel positions through AIPAC ties, evangelical Christian support, and defense cooperative narratives. Israel officials and diplomats typically respond cautiously to internal U.S. political scandals. They focus on formal state-to-state relations and public platforms, not the behavior of fringe operatives. Yeah, it's only when they can make money off of these people that they will go in full bore. But you're not going to do that with the Republican Party because you're using them so that you can have what you want politically, which is where the control is. Yeah, you're not going to bite the hand that feeds you, literally, in a sense, because you're paying for these politicians. You're not going to come down on them. Not ever. You're going to sit back and take it. You're not going to do nothing. Midterm credibility and optics within Israel's diverse public, he ain't gonna say nothing. AIPAC and donor implications. AIPAC donors tend to be pragmatic and bipartisan. but they pay close attention to the anti-Semitism. Tone on anti-Semitism. Sure, they do. So in summary, short-term minimal diplomatic impact, quick condemnations, contains damage. Yeah, it says we'd like to show some Israeli newspaper or officials. Yeah. So notable, the Times of Israel reported on this, that and the chapter being dissolved. The RJC, they did a post on X. We strongly condemn the comments, and the individuals involved should step aside. But you're not putting them up full mass, doing a full scale campaign on it. Again, like I said, if anybody knows about it, let me know. I don't see it. And it says what what ChatGPT was like, what I didn't find. I did not find a publicly accessible statement from the Israeli Foreign Ministry or major Israeli government officials, the Prime Minister, Minister of Diaspora Affairs, right? Specifically referencing this chat and linking it explicitly to the U.S. Israel relationship. Did not find extensive Israel commentary that singles out the anti Semitic content of the chat as opposed to the wider racism, homophobia, and discusses implications for Israel in depth. Did not find credible reporting indicating that Israeli political parties or official Israeli media have called for sanctions or cutoffs of the Republican Party because of this incident. Coverage is more descriptive than normative from Israeli side. So the assessment is the reaction from Israeli and Jewish community media is visible and critical, but not yet institutionally heavy on the Israeli foreign policy angle. In other words, Israeli media are reporting with alarm and associating the chat with anti Semitism, right? Israeli institutions appear to be in wait and see mode rather than making immediate foreign policy moves or public relationships. The absence of explicit linking to Israel US relations now that means that for now, the incident is being treated as a U.S. domestic scandal with international implications, but not yet as a bilateral U.S. Israeli diplomatic crisis. Like I said, I think it's intense. And then I said, is this a distraction from current issues? The Democrats and have the Democrats had a similar incident? It's possible. So is this a scandal, a distraction? Yes, at least in part, it functions as one. The timing of the young Republicans' anti-Semitic chat broke while Congress and the White House are deeply embroiled in, of course, the budget appropriation standoff, the government shutdown, foreign policy disputes with Ukraine, Gaza, Israel aid, right? Because even though they've done the ceasefire, they still want aid from us. Like, how are we still sending y'all money? Yeah, there's still that $925 billion package that the Senate redrafted from the $893 billion that the House had already sent to the Senate. And it's going back to the House. Yeah. Yeah, you heard me, billion with a B. Yeah, that's happening. Healthcare and insurance reform negotiations for 2026, which are due November 1st. So next week, that's due. And we are sitting here in a government shutdown when people's what to say, their monthly bill for their medical could double, and it will last for an entire year. So if somebody's paying like a little over $800 a month, it's going to go up to like $1,700 or more a month. Yeah. This is why government never should have gotten involved in healthcare. It's the worst thing for us. You need to get out of healthcare. You're horrible people. You don't know how to run the country. You definitely don't know how to run corporations. Okay. You've made this difficult on everybody, but you've made it easier for some. And we'll get into that a little bit later. But the 25-26 campaign cycle ramp up with both parties framing moral clarity, issues for the election or narrative. Yeah, of course they're going to bring this up. The Democrats going to be like, see, they're all anti-Semitic over there in the Republican Party. See, we told you they were racist. See. But y'all are too, in a worse way, right? Because you pretend not to be racist, but you have all these other people coming over here and you're throwing them in the black community and you're basically letting them know they need to get rid of the black community. Yeah. Yeah, Democrats, you do that. So you are. It's crazy. It is really, really insane. And have the Democrats had similar incidences? Yes, they have. And they've taken different forms from individual lawmakers. So Ilhan Omar and Benjamin's comment in 2019, where Representative Omar tweeted that U.S. support for Israel was all about the Benjamins, widely condemning as invoking anti Semitic tropes. She later apologized, but remained a lightning rod for criticism, especially from Jewish Democrats and the GOP. The House passed a broad resolution condemning anti Semitism and other forms of hate, which many saw as a diluted response. Yeah, because you didn't get rid of her. She's still in Congress, right? Anti-Israel or anti-Semitic rhetoric among campus and activist allies. So certain progressive groups allied with Democratic candidates, especially on campuses and within the squad, have been accused of anti-Semitism in their pro-Palestinian rhetoric, right? These controversies sometimes place mainstream Democrats in a difficult spot, balancing progressive allies with Jewish donors and centrists. So they both do it. Staffer had leaked a local chapter leaks. A few Democrat Party groups, California, Chicago, have had Slack or group chats containing anti-Semitic memes or language. These stories rarely reach national saturation, but are functionally similar to young Republican chat, revealing ideological fractures within youth or activist wings. Again, a lot more is caught than taught. Several Black Democratic politicians, um, Louis comments praising Louis Farrakhan, have drawn criticism for failing to denounce Semitic rhetoric associated with him, because he does. He talks about Jewish ownership and Hollywood and all that. He does. Hmm. But it just reminds me of rules for me and not for thee, right? It's very convenient how a lot of this is going away. And like I said, nobody's really getting drug the way Kyrie Irving did. Right. And here's, some other incidents. I don't know if you guys remember that dinner with Nick Fuentes where he went to, I think he was with Kanye West and they went to dinner at Mar-a-Lago. And he spotlights the danger of anti-Semitism edging into GOP mainstream, right? Received media condemnation, raised questions about boundaries in the party. Yeah. So, I mean, it's one thing they do it on both sides, but like I said, my problem is how they didn't go to the extremes that they did with Kyrie Irving in the denouncement. Where was the NAACP on this? Anybody? Bueller? Where's La Raza on this? Anybody? Huh. Yeah, it's stuff like that. Like there's no responses. Even if it's just all okay, he just talked about all the black people and all the Latinos, right? I still haven't heard from larger groups condemning this. Now, like I said, it seems weird to me. I think it was a whole ruse and a distraction because we are still at a government shutdown and we shouldn't be, but we are. So I'm going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to get into a little bit of the all sides before we have our weekend sports roundup.
All Sides has created a patented, fair, transparent process to rate the media bias of hundreds of news outlets and writers. We assess each media source and rate them as far left, center, lean right, or far right, allowing you to quickly identify different perspectives. All Sides uses many methodologies to determine bias, including the Blind Bias Survey, gathering people from all parts of the political bias spectrum and having them read and rate articles blindly, without telling them who wrote the article or which media outlet it came from. Then we take the average bias rating of several articles from a given media outlet for our final bias rating. Another powerful method we use is the editorial review. Focus groups of people with multiple political viewpoints who review the works of a media outlet and come to a consensus on its bias. We also look at credible third-party data, including academic research by top universities. Finally, what you say matters. We gather community feedback on our site every day, including hundreds of thousands of votes on our bias ratings. Our final bias ratings aren't determined by these votes, so they can't be gamed or falsified by any group. But we do analyze those votes for input and look for warning signs that our current bias ratings might be off. All Sides is constantly evolving our media bias engine. The more you participate, the better our ratings will be, and the better our news coverage will be. Go to allsides.com to get involved.
And we are back. Thank you so much for joining us here on Unfiltered Vision News, bringing you the news unfiltered Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 a.m. Eastern. My name is Dr. Ashaki Noni Nichols, and I will be your host. And so we will have our sports segment coming up here shortly, but I did want to share just a couple of articles from all sides. Oh, until we get conscious set up, I just wanted to go over this really quick about this ballroom. Now, I know I talked about the ballroom before, and oh my goodness, people are just crashing out over this ballroom situation. And so the East Wing was demolished last week. President Trump prepares to construct a privately funded ballroom in its place, right? Sparking ample media dialogue across the spectrum. So, demolishing norms, Linda Feldman of Christian Science Monitor noted Trump initially said the ballroom wouldn't interfere with the White House's structure and his non-involvement in the National Capital Planning Commission. She mentioned other projects Trump has planned for Washington, D.C., and wrote, Mr. Trump is demonstrating a signature feature of his second term. Just go for it and see if anyone tries to stop him. Feldman concluded someday might feel completely normal, but for now, it's another defining moment for the Trump era. The Rorschach test. The Washington Post, that leans left editorial board, described the East Wing demolition as a rush test where many see the rubble as a metaphor for President Donald Trump's reckless disregard of norms and the rule of law. And others see what they love about Trump, a lifelong builder, boldly pursuing a grand vision, a change agent, unafraid to decisively take on the status quo. The board noted that slow bureaucratic nature of involving NCPC and not in my backyard, right? Mentality that can halt progress on key projects. It concluded the White House cannot simply be a museum like the past. Like America, it must evolve with the times and maintain its greatness. Strong leaders reject calcification in that way. Trump's undertaking is a shot across the bow at NIMBYs everywhere. So actually needed. um, Jeffrey Barnes, who leans left, and National Review, that leans right, um, said, salute those across the ideological spectrum who are using this moment as an educational opportunity to raise awareness about how hateful most historical preservation society across America are. Ballar added that the vast majority of these organizations are run by the sorts of useless elderly NIMBY lunatics, and it concluded the White House actually needs the ballroom far more than it needs the nondescript block of administrative office space that was the West Wing. And this is something that I learned that I didn't know about before. Apparently, all those parties that were held at the White House, when dignitaries, that stuff was held out on the lawn, unless it's a very small group of people. And sometimes, we do see, I guess the door, not the doors, where when the president comes to address the press and the press is there, I think sometimes they use that room for events, but they don't use it for the bigger events. So literally these diplomats were coming when Obama was in office and even previous to Obama, and they were using porta potties. Yeah, they were using porta potties outside on the lawn in DC. That's gross. Okay? It's gross. But hey, do what you want to do, right? How many parties should you even be having at the White House anyway? Should it be a party place? I don't know. I don't know. But as long as he's not using tax dollars to do it, I'm down with it. So with that, let's get into our sports weekend recap. And with that, let's get Conscious Outlaw up on the stage for our weekend recap. Hey, Conscious, how are you? Oops, I think I put up the wrong one. Did I put up the wrong one or the right one? Let me remove that one. Go ahead.
Okay, yeah, can you hear me good?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, yeah, great Monday for everyone. So your Monday sports recap is the World Series is tied 1-1. They have a game at 7 o'clock tonight. Got the Toronto Blue Jays. The NFL, your division leaders are the Bucks. I'm sorry, the Patriots, the Steelers, the Bucks, and I'm missing one. I'm sorry. And your AFC leaders are Denver, Seattle. I'm sorry, I'm having a technical difficulty right here. I said, could you read them off for me? Because I said
Oh, sure. Yeah, so the NFL standings for the AFC division leaders are, we got the Patriots, Steelers, Colts, and Broncos. And then for the NFC division leaders, we have the Eagles, the Packers, the Buccaneers, and the Seahawks.
thank you. Yeah, I knew
Oh,
I was
not a
gonna have a
problem.
little problem. And our
Yeah.
college top 10 is Ohio State, A1, Georgia's in striking district at 5, and number
Mhm.
10 is Ole Miss. And
Yeah.
I've been focused on the NBA betting scandal. That has been something really big in the news. It's a historic indictment with all four of the mafia families, and it's affecting business for sports betting in a very interesting way. Actually, it's a positive because just like the lottery we had back in the day, this that everyone plays and don't see anything wrong with it. It started off as an illegal gambling ring, and
Mm,
now we have sports books betting, like with FanDuel. And Missouri is a very conservative state, so we just legalized it here. So with this coming down, it actually is bolstering these sports betting apps.
right. right.
So,
And I
so,
and
so
you
I
and how do you I
understand.
wanted to ask you your take on this, like, how do you think it's going to change, the way people go about betting? Because I was talking to my husband, I was like, "They have announced 4 different times that Lamar Jackson is not gonna play, and they've said it like 4 different ways. He's not playing this morning, he's not feeling well, he's not playing, he's not gonna be starting." I was just like, "Okay, y'all calm down," but I get it. You know what I mean? Like, everybody's, like, super on edge the way things are going. I mean, what's your perspective on that part?
Yeah, because with it's very intricate with these sports betting apps, so you can bet on players how many yards and stuff like that. And
Mhm.
I guess they have some type of way that they don't want people last minute changing up their bets if a person is hurt maybe in the morning, but then the coach automatically puts them in later because he wants to play through the injury, whatever like that. So it
Right,
affects their money. So if a
right,
person says he's hurt all week and then wakes up Sunday morning says I want to play, it's gonna affect the betting odds. So it's very deep. It's very integral how this is going to be affecting us going forward. But definitely, I think the reason for this big thing was to shut down all illegal activities so that the government can keep sanctions and they can keep control over the money and the betting and tax the betting apps.
yeah. I mean, I find it weird that you're talking about organized crime families. I was like, first of all, these people are walking the planet free, okay? Let's just talk about that part. And they're an organized crime like, it's organized crime, so what is it's mind-boggling how some people are just allowed to live like that, right? Just like you're totally allowed to be a criminal as long as you don't do certain things a certain way, and it's like, okay, so defrauding people was definitely a bridge too far, which happened with Chauncey Billups, right? See, he's not involved in like shaving points. His whole thing was being involved with the poker scandal, right? And in my opinion, I think he was gambling and got a little in over his head and owed some people some money. And so the way out, you know what I'm saying? The repayment on that was okay, you got to be the face of this poker thing we're going to put together, right? And you're going to need to bring other people in. So I think he was more so almost like a mule in the situation as opposed to him not getting in as deep as he did in the first place. I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I do believe they always have to put a black face on crime. Um, I don't believe that he was a ringleader, but he took part in it. So yeah, he definitely have something. Like I said, they made him a mule of the face of it. And it's very interesting. Also, the NFL released a statement over the weekend, reaffirming the stance on betting, point shaving, NFL players betting. So it really is affecting all sports across the board. But yeah, it's very
Yeah, yeah,
something. Even though the crime families are behind it, it's very interesting how they use a black face, a championship, probably Hall of Famer basketball player, to ruin his name to try to expose this.
right. Exactly. He lost his job because he was a coach, and that's a was, right? He's no longer coaching. One of these other players, that's involved separately from the poker situation, they're saying that, he was like faking injuries and different things like that. And I'm like, okay. So like in my opinion, a lot of people have known that people mess around with sports. You know, this isn't new. This is old stuff, in my opinion. It's just it's being brought to light right now, and I always have to ask why, right? That's always like, why now? You've been following this since like 22, it's 25, and it's probably been happening longer than this, right? But now you've got solid evidence, but to your point, Conscious, you're gonna put up 2 black men. I haven't seen any of the faces of any of these organized family crime members. Have you?
No, I haven't. And like I said, it's interesting how the time and lines up with these sports betting apps.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because I mean, DraftKings, they've been around for a while, but to your point, there's some other newer apps coming out, and it's like we already know. It's one of those things with betting. We already know that, there's an element, I should say, of criminality involved, and there always will be, because gambling on its very nature and face is illegal. You know what I'm saying? And I hate to say it, people like to play with, go to Vegas and do different things, but there's still an illegal element attached to it. I don't think gambling will ever be just that thing that's fun for people. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Well, was there anything else you wanted to share with us before you get on about your day?
No, that's it. Thank you very much. And I would excited to see you all next Monday.
All right. Well, thank you so much for giving us the sports roundup from the weekend from Countess Outlaw. See you next week. Okay. And so that was Countess Outlaw giving us the update for the weekend in sports. And good morning, sassy lady. She says, good morning, Dr. Nichols. And sincerely, Lawless, thank you so much for joining us on the stream this morning. But I definitely wanted to get into now more of the political side of what's happening with the sports betting that I was just discussing with Conscious.
Good morning. Today we are here in New York to announce a historic arrest across a wide-sweeping criminal enterprise that envelops both the NBA and La Casa Nostra. The men and women up here standing with me represent a small portion of the leadership team that brought profound justice in an era that needed it more than any. I'll just highlight some of the details in the case and the FBI work, and then you'll hear from the others. But as you now know, individuals such as Chauncey Billups, Damon Jones, and Terry Rozier were taken into custody today. Former, current NBA players and coaches. What you don't know is that this is an illegal gambling operation and sports rigging operation that spanned the course of years. The FBI led a coordinated takedown across 11 states to arrest over 30 individuals today responsible for this case, which is very much ongoing. Not only did we crack into the fraud that these perpetrators committed on the grand stage of the NBA, but we also entered and executed a system of justice against La Casa Nostra to include the Bonanno, Gambino, Genovese, and Lucchese crime families. And you'll hear more about those details today. The charges and the arrests that were taken down across this country range from wire fraud, money laundering, extortion, robbery, illegal gambling. This FBI will leave no room for any perpetrator of crime across this country. You hear a lot about our work of defending the homeland and crushing violent crime. Well, this work is also representative of a colossal portion of the FBI's mandate to keep America safe and to keep our entertainment industry fair and secure. The men and women that are standing up here today worked tireless hours, days, months, and years. And the fraud is mind-boggling. It's not hundreds of dollars. It's not thousands of dollars. It's not tens of thousands of dollars. It's not even millions of dollars. We're talking about tens of millions of dollars in fraud and theft and robbery across a multi-year investigation. And we could not have done it without our interagency partners that are before us today. The NYPD, HSI, and teams of law enforcement officials from around the country made this day possible. It takes a team to bring this kind of justice, sweeping justice, into the halls of the United States courtrooms, where our brave United States attorney has led this prosecution. It takes courageous prosecutors to stand before you and say, we will not allow this kind of illicit activity to happen, not only at the national sporting level, but also where it hides in La Casa Nostra. And when these two collided together, they perpetrated a fraud that is historic in terms of not just money, but the scheme and the deceit that they utilize to steal and swindle people for money, to include crypto fraud. This is an operation that showcases to you that under President Trump's administration, there is no room for any type of criminal behavior, be it on the world's largest stage or in the back rooms of tiny parlors where card games are being played. We are proud to stand here today with the men and women of the FBI and this legal team. And to the United States Attorney, I just want to thank you personally for taking the time to display the work that the media is about to hear about today in detail. As I said, it does take courageous prosecutors, but it takes a courageous United States Attorney to bring this case, because we are going to take heat for it. But we don't shy away in this administration. We don't say no. What we do is we bring the results across the finish line. We bring them to the public. We bring you accountability. And yes, they will have their day in court, and you will hear the evidence through the court system exclusively. We will not deny anyone of due process. And that's the brilliance of this system. That's the brilliance of this administration. Everyone will be held to account.
Yeah. Everyone will be held to account, but not everyone's face is going to be shown. Because right now, even though you have 30 people, Mr. Patel, the face of this is Chauncey Billups, because he's, more well known than these individuals in this organized crime family. I forget the other basketball player's name. But yeah. So you've made this the face of two black men playing basketball. But you really haven't made it the face for anybody else. So it's interesting when they talk about due process. Everybody's going to get their due process. Well, they've already been tried in the court of public opinion, and they're trash. And I just, with the person that was shaving the points, I'm like, you did that willingly. Chauncey Billups, I really think he just started gambling, got in over his head, and he had to do this in order to satisfy a debt. And he brought other people in, and they knowing and willingly defrauded individuals out of millions of dollars, which is completely wrong. But when you are dealing with an organized crime family, do you really think you have a choice? I'm just saying. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and, and pretend that we don't see movies with, old time mobsters like Gotti and, the movies like Scarface. Is like, yeah, they threaten people's lives. They threaten their families. And they typically have politicians in their pockets, and judges and officers and other members of city and local government. So it's really interesting to me that the NYPD was a willing and helpful participant in this. Yeah, because they got crime too. They got issues within, New York Police Department that's no, it's nothing that anybody's not aware of. But I'm like, it's going to be interesting to see how all of this plays out. Because I want to see some people's faces, since you got 30 people involved in this. I want to see more people than just the basketball players. Or what are you going to do next? Expose the other basketball players that were a part of this whole poker ring? Because there were, apparently. You didn't drop any names yet. Because you're not ready to destroy their lives yet. But this organized crime family, they'll recover. Please, I'm sure they've got backup systems with the backup systems. That's why they are able to stay in business as an organized crime family. Duh. It's crazy. But Patty Cake says, I love the new sports report on Mondays. Thank you so much for that. I appreciate you. And good morning, Patty Cakes. So yeah, this whole thing that's happening, like I said, in my opinion, it's changed betting forever. I know that. I know people are so above board because, like I was telling Conscious Outlaw, in Sunday football, they literally reported 4 different times that, Lamar Jackson was not going to be playing. He's not playing. He's not playing. He's really not playing. Yeah, he's going to be on the bench. I was like, okay, now y'all are all running scared. Yeah, because you're under a giant microscope, but you've been under one. So why is this new now? Why are you afraid? Oh, because before We didn't really have an FBI director that was going to actually pursue you. Now you got one. So it'll be very interesting to see how far this goes. And Uncle Coolwater says, once Vegas got involved with sports, it was a wrap. Yeah, absolutely. It's like, where do you think a lot of this organized crime family comes from? Vegas. Who do you think owns most of the casinos? They do. And it's sad because we've normalized illegal behavior. That's why I guess, and I'm not trying to juxtapose it, but when all of this stuff started happening with the border, politicians were just almost acting like there's nothing to see here. There's nothing wrong. And it's like you're involved with human trafficking. There's a lot wrong with this. They just normalized it through policy. And we paid for it. And we still are. We're going to get to that a little bit tomorrow and how, you know, they gave a permanent disability and Social Security benefits to people who are here illegally. Yeah, just real crazy. And Uncle Coldwater says, did you read my other post about all these gambling houses like FanDuel, etc.? No, I did not see your post on that, but I'm familiar with FanDuel and DraftKings, and I know there's a lot of other ones out there, and they shave and they have weird bets. I mean, even like a past couple of weeks with Derrick Henry, and I like Derrick Henry. I think he's great. I play fantasy football with my husband in our little league, and he was fumbling the ball. I was like, he never fumbles. And I just want to know, was there a bet for that? Now, if there was a bet for that, should we be connecting the dots? Right? Because the problem with it is who's playing? Are they well? Will they score? Because they'll make bets like, okay, so and so might throw so many interceptions, or this person might fumble the ball, or this person might score so many points. They don't just bet on who wins or loses. They bet on specific things that are going to happen in these games. And that's the problem. That's the problem right there. And I'm like, they shouldn't allow those bets, but you know what? Those bets are going to happen anyway, off to the side, what they call off the books, because they may not necessarily be in the online gambling, but that doesn't necessarily mean that somebody's not working with their bookie to place that bet. And the only reason I know some of that lingo is because interesting enough, one of my bonus grandmothers married to my grandfather after he had divorced my grandmother, married to, my mom's dad, basically. His new wife. She was a bookie and she would take bets. I think they would do the numbers. That was her thing. Yeah. And so she ran numbers out of his barbershop. Completely illegal activity going on, but they did it. And that's how she made money on the side. And that's how they had some of the nice things that they had outside of him having the barbershop. So yeah, so I'm not, how should I say, innocent to some of this. I know that this stuff goes on. And there's a lot more that goes on. I mean, there's drugs and prostitution. I mean, it goes deep. Okay. What happens beyond the gambling? But that's why there are so many states that don't allow it, because they don't want that type of element or activity within their state. It's impressive that even certain states have the lottery. I'm just saying, because it is a form of gambling. When we were on our vacation, we went to Niagara Falls. It was beautiful. The sad part is, you look across the street at these dilapidated homes. Now, this is Niagara Falls, you guys. Niagara Falls, you would think everything within at least, 3-4 miles radius all the way around would just be so beautiful and gorgeous. Now the tourist traps when you're on their way to the falls, yeah, that's nice. But the residents that literally live right across the street, mm-mm, messed up. I mean, it is gross. It is truly gross. Like to visit Niagara Falls and to go through the neighborhoods and to see how uh, the houses are just sad. You know, some of the houses are condemned, burned down, and just, I'm like, what happened here? And businesses just eviscerated, not even there. Just truly, truly sad. So definitely pray for Niagara Falls because it's weird because they're right there on the Canadian border. Like Canada is like literally right across the street from my hotel room. I could just see Canada across the falls. It was beautiful on that side, but on the American side, just sad. And Uncle Coolwater says that was funny about the numbers game. Is that the system or the government called it illegal gambling? Then he took the same concept and turned it into what we have today and pick 3, and pick 4, etc. Talking about uh, the man that black people was making money, right? On his side. And then duplicate the same procedure and call it legal gambling. Yeah. See, it was always illegal because it was meant to entrap certain people and allow others to make their money. Does that make sense? So in the black community, even though they were running numbers, they typically had somebody else they were answering to, right? But in this instance, yeah, my 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 other grandmother, she was a don. Just saying, she was kind of the heavy. She had a very interesting background, but yeah, she was a numbers girl, and she ran the numbers, the pick 3s, the pick 4s of the day, and the house never lost. Mm-mm. Yeah, she was interesting, but again, in the black community, it's always illegal, right? But Italian families, they're organized crime families, but they're not in jail. They're not in prison. And you're still allowing them to walk the planet as an organized crime family. Like how does that even work? You're an organized crime family and we're just gonna let you do your thing. Or keep tabs on you as long as you won't get too wild with it. But we're not gonna put any of you in jail. It just, like I said, it makes no sense to me. I'm like, what are you even good for, FBI? If you're not going to dismantle the entire thing, because that's the thing. If you dismantled everything, you would literally have to dismantle everything. There would be no more gambling in sports at all. You'd have to get rid of DraftKings, you'd have to get rid of everything and not allow anything. So in Vegas, you could have your little slot machines, your little card tables, but sports betting would have to be over. Horses, everything. No horses, no baseball, nothing. No sports at all. But you know what? There would still be that crime element to do it because it's been happening for so long. And Sassy Lady says, now that's the truth. Yeah, it's sad. I know. So how should I say it? It's legal to gamble in certain states, right? Where it's allowed. The problem is when they start doing the point shaving, the specific betting, right? And they start taking advantage of people with the betting, like with the poker tables, right? Um, Somebody was talking about how they had contact lenses and glasses, and the table was set up to where all of the players that were involved in the scam that was happening to other people that they brought in, they could see their cards under the table. They would make sure that they metered out the cards with the dealer. I mean, just it was a whole thing how they were defrauding people for millions of dollars. I was like, how much gambling did you do, Chauncey? Like, bro, Gamblers Anonymous. Come on. But again, I don't think it was I don't think he was running to go, hey, I want to help you guys out. I think it was a very strong ask, you know, like, oh, you going to do this or we will destroy you and everyone around you. And that's how that happened. So I can't feel sorry for you nor the people that you brought into it because you guys are all a part of it. I'm just sad that you had to endure what you're enduring, and it's not over. This is just the beginning. This is just the tip of the iceberg. It's one of those things we see the iceberg on the top, but we don't see what's underneath the glacier and how far it goes down. And I'm sure it'll go down. But if they don't really how should I say arrest anybody else in these crime families, then what are we doing here? What are we talking about? It's that part for me. If everybody's not going to jail, why are we here? Ooh. And with that, let's take a quick break. And when we come back, we'll get into a little bit more of this news on all sides. And thank you so much for joining me here on Unfiltered Vision News. And we will see you on the other side.
A life empowered is closer than you think. We're all looking for a better way. Reimagine what's next with a new sense of exuberance. Why not power on like you mean it? Or power off blissfully? A better sleep is a better awake. You've never moved like this before. With the energy nature intended. Imagine reprogramming the way you look at the speed of science. At longevity. At exhilaration. It's next level rejuvenation. Take your well-being from the inside out and outside in. The light within is ready to ignite. Be the light. LifeWave.
And we are back. Thank you so much for joining us here on Unfiltered Vision News, bringing you the news unfiltered Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 a.m. Eastern. My name is Dr. Ashaki Noni Nichols, and I will be your host. And I wanted to get into this article saying, as government shutdown continues, the Pentagon accepts an anonymous $130 million gift to help pay the military. Now, I find it fascinating, right, that people are giving money to the military to keep them afloat when they lost $6 billion a couple of years ago. I don't know. Does anybody remember that? Like, how do you lose $6 billion? Not 600, not 6 million, not 600 million, $6 billion. Now, there are certain, I should say, campaigns that they run where people are like quadruple deep undercover in a lot of these, places that we don't know, but they're spies, right? Keeping tabs on what's going on and all these different things. So collectively, when you see the money not necessarily on the books, but it's going to something else, you can't say what the funding is, apparently. You just got to say, yeah, we lost $6 billion. Because you can't have other countries knowing that you're actually funding espionage, but you are. So I'm gonna just let the cat out of the bag. They're funding espionage. So whenever you hear about billions of dollars being lost, just know they have assets in these other countries that they're paying for, and they cannot log that money on the books. Sad truths about our country. But what I find fascinating is that you're the military and you haven't set aside a rainy day fund for our military. Like, what really happens if this $130 million didn't come through? We're not funded, really? Y'all are like close to 50% of the budget, and y'all don't have a rainy day fund for this kind of nonsense that happens. Really, it's weird. So, amid a continuing federal government shutdown, the U.S. Department of Defense said it accepted an anonymous donations of $130 million intended to help cover the salaries and benefits of military service members. Again, we should always have a rainy day fund for our military. We've had government shutdowns before. It should literally be a line item, government shutdown. And that should just be the line item in case this nonsense happens, because these congressmen and women are completely unpredictable. They don't work for us. And if anybody's out there, going, oh, yeah, they're for us. No, they're not. Period. They're not. It'd be nice if they were. They're not. So here are the details. At a White House event on Thursday, President Donald Trump said a friend of mine, had offered to help cover shortfalls in pay and benefits for service members, adding that the donor wanted to remain anonymous. Trump called the wealthy donor a patriot for contributing $130 million. According to the Pentagon, the gift represents only a small fraction of about $6.5 billion in administrative, said it directed from military research and development from funds a week ago to maintain payroll. The Pentagon accepted the donation. According to the Associated Press, a Pentagon spokesman said the agency had accepted the donation under what's called the General Gift Acceptance Authority. The donation was made on the condition that it be used to offset the cost of service member salaries and benefits, said Pentagon spokesman Sean Parnell. We are grateful for this donor's assistance after Democrats opted to withhold pay from the troops. Look, it's kind of crazy that you got somebody, like, you got a friend that's just like, I'm hooking you up with $130 million. Please don't think that they're not going to get paid on the back end in treasury bills or whatever, because people buy our debt all the time. Pretty sure this is not a write-off like that. Pretty sure about it. So with Congress deadlocked over a new budget, the government shutdown began on October 1st, has become the second longest U.S. history. Lawmakers remain at odds over health care funding and subsidies. Many Republicans argue their Democrat opponents want to fund health care programs for illegal immigrants, while Democrats say the GOP spending plan fails to address the broader health care crisis faced by Americans. Meanwhile, payment for active duty service members remains a bipartisan concern. It's only bipartisan when your donors can benefit from the nonsense that you guys are doing right now. And the American people are suffering for it. We're tired. That's like I'm saying, in 2026, all of these people doing this right now, remember what they've done and fire them in 2026 in the House. Like, the House needs to be flipped completely upside down. Like, nobody there right now should be going back to office in 2026. Nobody. I don't even care if they're freshmen this year. You're not going back. You should not be reelected to office. You're horrible at your job. You guys can't even balance your own checkbooks. Least of all, keep the country balanced. Okay? You don't know what you're doing. And you are in bed with the enemy to the people, your donors. They're running this country. You're not. And it's disgusting. And we all see it. Okay. This is called exposure at this point. Y'all could have hid. I would say like 2 weeks. Y'all could have hid. This is your donors telling you to do this. They want the collapse of the country. They want it. They need it because it serves them. They want to destroy America, period. Because if you didn't, guess what? You would have passed this back in February. Yeah, everybody. Newsflash, this has been going on since February, since the last CR that they did. Yeah. Y'all need to learn how to pass a clean budget. That's what you need to do. So this is how the media covered it. Fox News on the right emphasized Trump's quote that the donor acted because I love the military and I love the country. The outlet echoed Pentagon gratitude for the assistance after Democrats opted to withhold pay from troops. Conversely, the Associated Press that leans left framed the donation as an unusual and potentially problematic response, quoting one expert who called the move crazy and likened it to picking up your bar tab. Well, somebody's got to pick it up because y'all don't. We've got air traffic controllers right now doing DoorDash to make sure that their bills are paid because they're not getting paid to be air traffic controllers. Yeah, that's right. The people that keep the planes in the air from crashing. Mm-hmm. And the flights, I'm just saying, we're getting into the holiday season. People aren't going to be able to travel here pretty soon. Don't think it won't happen. Because, see, they were supposed to, this CR was only supposed to extend to the 21st of November. I need people to realize that. It wasn't like a CR to, continue to January. No. It was only going to be from October 1st to November 21st. And then they were still going to have to, between that time, come up with the appropriations for the fiscal year for 2026. They still haven't even done that. This stuff is sitting over in the Senate. Yeah, like I need y'all to get it together. Like this is really bad. This is a bad look for our country. And the sad part is they don't care. They really don't. And I think that's the part that really it just drives me nuts about them. But there was another article I wanted to get into with you guys. And I saw Bernie Sanders on The Daily Show with Jon Stewart. I don't know if you guys watch Comedy Central. But, Bernie Sanders, he was sitting there and he was just like, yeah, all of these rich guys and, they, instead of having a billion, they can't have $200 billion as opposed to $1 billion. Now, this comes from the same man who owns a few homes. Yeah. Mr. Socialist that owns a few homes. Yeah. Different parts of the country. Cars, plural. Worth a few $1 million in Congress. And you want to talk about rich people. Like, how dare you be rich? At least they run a country that produces a product and they're making their money. You've just been living off of the American people, becoming a millionaire. I'm going to let that rest right there for a second. And hopefully it's not missed on anybody. I'm sick of hearing from Bernie Sanders talking about, yeah, the rich people, they just need to pay their fair share. What about you? Huh? Oh, that's right. You're exempt because you're a government employee, even though you're worth millions of dollars, even though you get involved with insider trading. Oh, yeah, that's right. And your wife defrauded students from a trade school. We all forgot about that, right? Mm-hmm. Mr. Bernie. Yeah, I get it. He wants things to be fair. I get that. I think everybody wants things to be fair. How about you? I'm all for fair. What I'm not for is making other people pay for the fairness. That's what I'm not about. Okay? You need to stop that. And another thing, it's weird to me that people are like mad at white men. White men are dumb, this, that, and the other. But you want the white men to pay for it. It's hilarious to me. It's like, Zara Madame, yeah, we're gonna tax the rich white people. Okay. But you turn around and you want to hate them at the same time. It's like you want to hate me, but you want me to pay for it. It's weirdness to me. Very crazy. Uncle Coolwater says, that's crazy-ish about the Democrat Party, right? They act like they don't have million and billionaires on their side, right? Making you think that only billionaires exist on the Republican side, right? And the crazy part about it is most of the million and billionaires you have are in Congress. Ilhan Omar, for example, she was broke. She's worth $30 million now. How did that happen? You don't make anything. You don't own a company that produces anything, but you're worth $30 million? Huh? Burn, sir. You don't make anything. And you're worth a few hundred million. Nancy Pelosi, right? Elizabeth. It's interesting how these Democrats, you sit there and you act like no one's paying attention. And Michonne says, thanks for exposing the corruption. You're welcome. It's sad and it's silly. Because they're like, yeah, we're going to tax the rich and make them pay for it. Okay, so are you first in line? We going to put you in the 37% bracket, bruh? Bernie, bro? You going to pay for some of this? Because last I checked, as a government employee, you don't even pay taxes. You can do insider trading. Make a few $1 million and only have to pay maybe a fraction of that, like $100, $150 in fraction. Yep. Michelle says the Congress clique. They are. They, but that's what they do. That's how they're surviving. They are literal leeches on the American people. And we are sitting back watching these people. Like I said, all these people need to be replaced. If we do not fire them in 2026, I don't know where our country's going. And I'm not trying to fearmonger with that. I'm just trying to light a fire under you. Get these people out of office. They don't belong there anymore. They need to be done because they're not representing us. They're representing themselves and their own personal interests. They stopped thinking about the American people a long time ago. A long time ago. So Senator Bernie Sanders, he's an independent from Vermont, commended President Donald Trump for some of his politics this week, joining some Democrats in a political shift away from political polarization and towards constructive criticism. Some media outlets, largely on the right, spun the comments to fit a more conservative narrative. Media on the left, on the other hand, largely omitted coverage. Yeah, because you can't say anything good about Donald Trump, even if he is doing something good. And Michelle says, all of them need to be replaced. Absolutely. We have the receipts. But, they're doing all this thing because they hope you forget. They hope that you forget and that you're not going to pay attention. And Uncle Coolwater says, you heard what Bernie said when they asked were the Congress gonna not get paid. And he said, no, because they all have babies and stuff that they have to take care of. This man ain't got no babies. He got grown kids that shouldn't live with you. And if they do, I'm questioning your parenting skills, bro. Really? I'm telling you, I'm gonna play that video for y'all for Stephen A. Yeah, I played it, but I think I need to play it again. Where he was truly disgusted. He's sitting on there with Jim Jordan and a couple of other members of Congress, and they're just tee-heeing. And he's like, y'all are gonna be fine. We're going to be okay. But this air traffic controller who's driving DoorDash because he's not getting paid, but is expected to work. Yeah, it's that part. That's the disgusting part. And those are the things that people just need to call a spade and get these people out of office. And Sanders comments, he may be crazy, he may be a pathological liar, but he's not stupid. But what I mean by that is the message that he gives off in one way or another is the system is broken and I alone can fix the system. Well, the truth is the system is broken. He is making it worse, but the Democrats have got to acknowledge that the system is broken. Sanders said on an episode of The Daily Show, yes, on Monday, during the Tim Dillon Show on Wednesday, he said, so has historically the United States done well under Democrats and Republicans protecting the border? The answer is no. Trump did a better job. Right. And he's messed with some people's money. He has. And I'm sure those people, are not really excited with Trump, but hey, you got to do what you got to do. And Uncle Coolwater says essential workers should always get paid no matter whether the government is up, running, or shut down. They did it during the pandemic. They could do it during the shutdown. They could. But see, what would be the point in getting everybody all upset and riled up and, just in a whole lather? They're playing political politics with our lives for the 2026 election. Make no mistake about it. This is all a setup. Sorry. Look, sorry. And Michonne says Trump did his deals. Yeah, he did. Yeah, they made sure everybody got paid. What was that? The CARES Act and the Inflation Reduction Act. And a lot of those budgets are going to be in place till 2026, right? Part of this shutdown is because the Democrats want pandemic level spending back, right? For medical, essentially. But the question becomes, where does the money come from? And Michonne says this exposes their agendas. It does. They're completely out in the street on this one. In other comments, former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton said after Israel and Hamas agreed to the first steps of Trump's peace plan, it's a really significant first step, and I really commend President Trump and his administration, as well as Arab leaders in the region for making the commitment to the 20-point plan and seeing a path forward. I am very hopeful that we'll be able to see progress. Today is a good start, but we have to keep going from here. Governor J.B. Pritzker said at Fox News on the Right Bias on Thursday, I asked President Biden and wrote a very public letter to deal with some of the problems at the border, and we weren't getting any help really from the federal government. Since President Trump has taken office, we don't have the problem that existed before the people coming across the border. However, Pritzker also criticized Trump's method and called for an actual bill that Democrats and Republicans can rally around. Sir, he doesn't need a bill. He called for the Alien Enemies Act of 1798. It's legislation. I need you to get there. And that was already in place in 1798. All he had to do was re-trigger it and say, hey, we're shutting down the border. Hey, we're getting everybody off the soil. See, it just didn't stop at shutting down the border. You got to get rid of these people as well. Period. And see, what you don't like is your voter base is getting removed. Let's just keep that 100, Mr. Pritzker, who think he's going to run for president. Sir, stop. The answer is no. No. Conservative Spin. Daily Caller on the right headline about Pritzker's comments stated Democrat J.B. Pritzker admits Biden's border crisis went away as soon as Trump took office. A headline from Fox News asserted that Sanders praised Trump and slammed Biden on border policies. The Washington Examiner, that leans right headline similarly stated Bernie Sanders admits Trump did better on the border than Biden. Everybody admits that Trump has done better on the border as opposed to Biden. Seriously? And if you're sitting there going, no, he didn't. Yes, he did. Stop it. And Michonne says, get him out of here. Yeah, we need to. We need to. But here's what I find interesting. They should be able to agree on some things. If it's right, it's right. If it's wrong, it's wrong. And that's the problem with our politics today. That's the problem with our politics today. It's one of those things, oh my gosh, I can't agree with you if you're a Republican, or I can't agree with you if you're a Democrat. I have to be completely polar opposite. No, that is not how this works. Even though you guys represent two different parties, but unfortunately, you've gotten caught up in ideology. That's a separate conversation. But two separate parties, you have vested interest for the people that you represent. You go to Washington to say, I'm fighting for this, for these people. And the other side, same thing. But it's gotten to a point where you guys can't even talk or have a conversation. It's a bad relationship. Like, it's super dysfunctional. It's bad. A lot of people want a divorce. They do. I think people just want a divorce from the members of Congress, House and Senate, because y'all are wild. You don't know how to work together. You don't care about the American people. You're more concerned about making money. Democrats, you're more concerned about stealing from the rich and giving to the poor when you are the rich, which is stupid. Again, you don't make anything, so you don't even know the basic bare knuckle issues that business owners have. And Republicans, you're not any better. Because as much as you downplay and talk about, hey, people need to start businesses, you make it impossible for people to start businesses. You make it unattainable. And then you sit back and go, hey, pick yourself up by your bootstraps. Now, a lot of people out there being Republicans, they might say, well, that's not fair. Yes, it is fair. Heard of anything from the Small Business Administration lately? Anything? Bueller? Just saying. Have you heard anything from them lately? How they want to help people get their own businesses so they're not dependent on the government. You know what? Here's my thing. If you want all of these people to get off of food stamps and all these other things, let's do the next best thing. Let's find out what businesses they want to start and what businesses they can start just working from home. And we're going to go over that tomorrow, because I think that should be our way out of this. Our way out of this should not be throwing more money at it to make people more dependent. It should be, hey, where are we at right now? And what can we give people to jumpstart the economy so that they have their own businesses, whether that's at home or brick and mortar? And really get back to the next industrial revolution, which is humans serving other humans, right? And Michonne says, sue them for harm. Yeah, we could. They won't take it. But haven't heard anything from Small Business Administration. No, you haven't. Not a peep. I wonder why that is. Like I said, we're going to get into it tomorrow, because I think that's a bigger conversation that we need to get into. The Small Business Administration should be overproducing small businesses, because there's room for it, as opposed to a lot of these bigger businesses consolidating, right, and eating up smaller businesses like Pac-Man and just enlarging and enriching themselves. There needs to be local level competition everywhere. And everybody should be able to compete with Walmart and Target and all these other big box stores and have a competitive product that people want to buy. It's out there. Why isn't the Small Business Administration doing more? So with that, we're going to end today's show. Thank you guys so much for joining me. I do apologize for getting started a little late. Had a few technical difficulties getting on, but as usual, thank you for joining me here on Unfiltered Vision News. And remember, stay well, stay focused, and stay unfiltered. We'll see you in the next one.